Hello, thank you for joining us. We're about to record our initial reactions to the season 5 finale of Once Upon a Time. If you enjoy this conversation, please subscribe to our podcast over at oncepodcast.com. That's where you can receive every episode automatically. Instead of trying to watch us here on YouTube or on the live page, you can receive every episode and it downloads automatically to your computer, mobile device, whatever. Subscriptions options are over at oncepodcast.com. And now, here we go with the episode. You're listening to Once, episode 251, Only You and Untold Story Initial Reactions. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
And we just watched the season 5 finale.
Or was it season 2?
Yes. So what do you think? Why do you say that?
I was already saying that it was...
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Before you share that thought, let me start the recording and start the podcast over again.
Recording's a good thing to do with a podcast.
It is. Yeah, I was thinking, why is that thing blinking at me? Basically saying, I'm not recording yet, you stupid fool. Okay.
That's a lot for a blinking light to say. Although the thing does say, goodbye, see you.
Okay, here we go again. You're listening to Once, episode 251, Only You and an Untold Story Initial Reactions. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
And we just finished watching the season 5 finale. A great finale, I think, in many ways. Yeah, maybe had some low points too, but a great season 5 finale.
You sure it was season 5, not season 2?
Why do you say that?
Because I was already saying that it was the missing portion of season 2 before they showed the dragon. This is everything I expected season 2 to move into. Magic in New York City. They reinvented the taser.
Yeah.
In a sense, only now it's used on non-magical people and magical people, and it doesn't kill them.
I can see that, yeah. And maybe they had this storyline in mind because originally when they were doing season 2, they wanted to go a certain direction, and then they either stumbled upon this idea or finally got the rights to use Peter Pan, and then so they shifted directions very suddenly to move us toward Neverland.
And it showed.
But I think that one of the cool things this did validate from season 2 is that low point in season 2 from the episode Selfless, Brave, and True was the dragon. And a lot of things into that, and the taser thing, and all of that confusion and misconceptions about it being a regular taser when it wasn't actually a regular taser. But all of that stuff.
How silly of us.
This kind of validates that by bringing the dragon back, and back in maybe a more powerful form. Now, Tamara had tased him with the magical taser, and he said, if you strike me down, I will return in even greater form, or maybe that was someone from Star Wars. But nonetheless, he said something similar to that, basically saying, you haven't seen me in my true form. And it kind of gave the impression that he couldn't be harmed, potentially, but a lot of other things about that episode made it seem like he was dead. Now he's back. Yeah, let's try and figure that one out, maybe. Or just move on, because
he had basically the same effect in this episode as back then, to me. Although I think we maybe are going to see more of him next year. He's going to be the blind witch of season 6.
He could also finally bring resolution to one of the other unfinished stories of the late seasons.
Oh.
Yeah. Finding Maleficent's
Oh.
lover.
Oh. Oh, that.
Yeah. And finding the father, the dragon father of their little dragon baby.
I guess.
Now, if you couldn't already tell, these are our initial reactions. So we're a bit all over the place on our thoughts, and we will dig more in depth in our upcoming full discussion. But instead of going scene by scene, since we have 2 hours to go through, and because it's a finale, what we like to do is really talk about the highlights. So feel free to send us your feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like, what some of your theories are about where this is going for season 6. And that contact information and the show notes for this episode are at oncepodcast.com/251. That's also where you can go to share this episode with your friends who are like, what in the world? Who is this weird, stereotypical Chinese guy in this show? And why is all of this happening? Tell them, go to oncepodcast.com/251, and that's where they will delve into this and explain it. And welcome if you're that person who came here from listening to that.
We will try to explain it.
So what do you think about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Remember, again, back in season 2, when we were all theorizing that Dr. Whale was perhaps this character?
Yeah.
Well, I say we all. I don't even remember where I fell on that issue.
Certainly one of the possibilities that we were thinking about, also back in season 2, was when Henry said, wait a minute, Dr. Frankenstein's story isn't in this book. So he hinted back then that there were perhaps other stories and potentially in other story books. And we've known since then that there have been many authors. And so it's nice to finally delve into these, I don't know what to call them, because I think the books tend to record only one realm's stories.
Do you?
Yeah. So there's this other storybook that we saw some scenes from, like Don Quixote, Paul Bunyan, a couple other things in there. Maybe that's the storybook that's connected to that other land that was the land of untold stories.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a misnomer to call it the land of untold stories if it's where they've stuck literally every character that they want to bring into the show that's in a story that's been told in our world. That makes them not untold. We recognize
That's
literally
true.
everything that was in that book.
The way that the way that Mr. Hyde explained it when he arrived in Storybrooke made it sound like it's kind of the underworld of stories, that they're all the incomplete stories.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Yes.
And those characters could be there too.
Very steampunk looking place, which was really cool looking.
I did like that the heroes recognized what character they were seeing instead of ignorantly learning about him. As he started to turn, they realized, oh, Jekyll and Hyde, we should probably, go.
Yeah. Because until then, they didn't realize it was the same person.
Because they may not have gotten a lot of that stuff while they were under the curse, but they spend an awful lot of time these days digging through every book in the library. So at some point, they must get distracted when they're looking for the solution to their magical problem of the day.
When I first saw that guy that tased everyone when they arrived at the mansion, I thought, no, please, not Star Wars. Because he looked kind of like a Jedi, partially, in his attire.
Yes. And
he spoke kind of like a Jedi, almost. But he didn't use the Force like a Jekyll. Like a Jekyll-eye.
Like a Jekyll-eye.
It's a blend of a Jedi and a Jekyll.
And he didn't have a lightsaber.
Yeah.
He had a wand that produced Emperor-like lightning.
Now, it's certainly not beyond Disney to do that because Disney owns Star Wars. So they could bring in Star Wars into all of this at any point.
That world was a jumble. He could still be from a Star Wars universe.
He could be, yeah. Someone whose story was untold, which I'd imagine there are millions of untold stories from the Star Wars universe. But you know who helps us bring out the untold stories and helps us to tell those untold stories?
You don't mean.
Yes, I do. Our wonderful heroes for making this episode of the podcast possible. Big thanks to Lisa Slack and David Newland for their continued support, and also our other heroes on Patreon. We could not do this without you. Every episode is supported by someone being a hero to the podcast, helping us to release the episodes and helping us to cover the expenses. And the expenses will continue over the summer hiatus. So we can understand if you need to withdraw your support for a short time or something like that. But our expenses do continue. So we appreciate every little bit you're able to give, even if we don't put a podcast out on a regular basis. So it's great to have 32 Patreons. So it's great to have 32 heroes on Patreon. Now, if you'd like to be a hero and get access to... No, you don't actually get access to... that was me making a verbal typo.
We call those bloopers.
Yeah. Now, if you want to become a hero and get exclusive access to fun stuff like bloopers, early access to spoilers, and much more, then go to oncepodcast.com/hero. There are several options over there, but we really recommend that you sign up with Patreon because that's how we can deliver those bonuses to you, and that supports the podcast on a regular monthly basis. So go over there to oncepodcast.com/hero, and thank you for your support. This whole splitting Evil Queen from Regina thing. Now, when I saw that at first, I was thinking, oh, this is weird. This is making all kinds of unintentional moral statements, but also it's weird that, oh no, season 6 is going to be Regina versus the Evil Queen, not just like an inner struggle, but an external struggle. And then Regina ripped out the Evil Queen's heart and crushed it. And I thought, yay, that storyline's not going to be part of season 6. And then the producers ripped my heart out and crushed it and said, no, it is going to be part of season 6.
Well, they just can't seem to strike the same note from week to week. And I mean, partially I'm glad, and partially I'm not glad, and partially there are a lot of parts to me. I don't know where they're going, or I don't know if they know what they're trying to say ultimately in any sort of cohesive way, because it's sort of, I'm this and that. You can't separate this part from that part. But then Regina does. And she feels better. She doesn't feel incomplete in some way.
Yeah.
This is the first we've ever heard of this. And at first, the talk she had with Emma was possibly one of my favorite scenes. Certainly one of my favorite scenes in Once Upon a Time for years. But there was this nagging feeling in the back of my head, like it felt better written than a lot of things that have happened of late. And yet she used a couple of phrases that made me just a little afraid. I thought there's a construct coming out of this conversation that didn't exist before. And I don't know that I like it. I want to just see her just have some real complex feelings and some turmoil with no strings attached. Just be a complex character. This is great. So she shows the most complexity she's shown in a very long time. And they literally rip her in two over it. It sort of frustrates me.
Yeah. I think the ultimate resolution of that will be the melding of the two back together.
Right.
And the acknowledgement that you can't split the darkness from yourself, but you can overcome it. You can make the choices to not do evil things. You can be a whole person, yes, who will always struggle with darkness. You can't just rip the darkness out of you and be good for the rest of your life. I think they might come back to that.
I hope so.
But in a way that communicates there's hope. Because after all, can we really relate with the thought of, oh yeah, if I've got darkness inside of me, I'm really struggling with something, I can just rip it out, crush its heart, and I will never struggle with that temptation again. Yip-dee-day!
To me, it's frustrating that Snow and Emma were both so supportive of this decision, because I see very little difference between this opportunity that Regina found. Actually,
Yeah.
it was kind of Snow's idea almost, but there's very little difference between what she did in this episode and when she was so burdened that she took her heart out and tried to hide it in the forest.
Right.
It's the same thing. She felt like probably everyone does at some point, that she couldn't deal with what was happening inside, but she had a magical way to try to separate herself from it. And it's not worked well for anyone who's tried it in this show so far.
Yeah. And I hope it's not something they carry through season 6 a whole lot. But also, I don't want them to resolve it in the first episode.
Yeah. I want to see the evil queen terrorizing New York City, honestly.
Yes, yes. I was really hoping, and I really liked the direction this episode was going, but somewhere around maybe halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, it then changed directions. And I didn't quite like the direction it was going, but I liked the idea of Rumple is outside of Storybrooke with magic, and he can use magic throughout the world. I liked that idea. I liked the idea of things happening outside of Storybrooke and Storybrooke possibly not even existing. Well, even as it is, I like the exit of, I don't know how many of the characters, but there was that moment, and the show has been on for a long time, so I'm going to spoil something in Lost, but there is that moment in Lost.
Close your ears, kids.
Where they basically, well, they do. They kill all the secondary characters, and then we focus on the core characters. It feels like we've had that moment now with Once Upon a Time, where we can now focus on these are the core characters. Oh, but wait, we just welcomed a whole nother realm of characters into Storybrooke.
That was just the extra realm characters from really just maybe the last 1.5 to 2 seasons. It was the Sherwood Forest people, the Camelot people, and a few other strays they've picked up along the way.
And I guess we're supposed to assume the portal worked for them and took them to where they were supposed to go.
I guess we are supposed to assume that. And, we got the throwaway line about why the weird thing happened and they ended up in this other realm, and we got our whole plot for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I would have liked a little less coincidence, but...
Well, here's what I think is the plot, the basic plot for next year. Although this doesn't quite seem like the setup, but Regina kind of said it. Or rather, Evil Queen said it. She said, "This is war and it's just begun. I think we're finally going to have the final battle."
But if it's the final battle, it has to be the final season, because then they can have no more battles.
We don't know if Once Upon a Time will have a 7th season. We know that Kitsis and Horowitz want a 7th season, but ratings are kind of to the contrary. However, ABC recently canceled several shows, including Castle, and some other shows that seem to be doing really well. And what it seems is that although the ratings and viewership of Once Upon a Time has gone down over the years, the ad rates for Once Upon a Time are going up. And what did they do tonight that was really smart?
It was mostly sponsored by one movie.
Actually,
two movies.
Two movies, but primarily one, Alice Through the Looking Glass, which, by the way, after our full finale discussion episode, we'll be having a review of Alice Through the Looking Glass, as I and Jeremy, or maybe someone else will join me, to go to that movie, get an early screening of that movie, and review it for you. So that will be the week after this week. And so that will be episode 253 of our podcast, if you want to check that out and watch for that. But yeah, so they had Alice Through the Looking Glass, totally relevant to this audience, I think. And in fact, the first commercial break was nothing but the trailer for Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah, it caught me off guard. I started to do something else on my phone, and then the show was back.
And it was brilliant.
It was.
It totally relevant. And also they advertised the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant movie.
The big fat guy.
Which is also a movie that will probably appeal to Once Upon a Time fans and the audience for the show. So Once Upon a Time makes money for ABC. The ad rates have gone up for it. They're advertising the rest of the Disney Disney. That's Disney when he has a cold. He's Mr. Disney. Walt Disney World. I'm going to go to the Walt Disney World because I have a cold.
That's not even a cold, my friend, but that's all right.
I just spit something out. That might have been the cold. I just spit out. You know, I'm a lot more forgiving of our bloopers now that we actually publish them. And I let myself have more fun with them, too. Let me try that again.
All right, then.
The ad rates for Once Upon a Time are going up, and they're advertising extremely relevant things, and they are promoting the rest of the Disney universe of movies, like the Cinderella movie, the upcoming movies that Disney has going on, the other fairy tale movies that are coming out. So Once Upon a Time is a great way to build that audience. So I think all of that to say we might still see a 7th season, even if the ratings are down, because Disney realizes this is a moneymaker.
Do you think that could be the long rumored zombie season from Lost?
If there was going to be a zombie season, I think it would be season 6.
I think they could have zombies from Lost. They might be an Untold Story.
It actually looked at first when we saw Mr. Hyde, I was first thinking, is he a zombie? Nope, that's Doomsday from Smallville. I believe it's the same actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm quite certain, and I saw some other people in the chat room saying it too. I thought the whole believing thing in New York was at first like really corny. And then to see the direction they took it and like the magic and then everyone applauding, I thought, okay, yeah, I could see that actually happening in New York. You know, some street performer gets everyone involved and does this thing and big show and thank you everyone and good night.
Similar to a flash mob.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured they're not going to change the world in the show that much, so these people are not going to believe this was real. But apparently they did.
Yeah, and it worked. There was enough belief there. And a neat moment for Henry, too, to be so instrumental in it. And here's the guy with the heart of the truest believer.
I think Santa probably even got to take his sleigh out for a spin at an abnormal time of year.
Since everything happens in New York.
Pretty unusual spike in belief. He was able to just take that puppy up.
So we've got a lot to talk about in our full discussion that will be coming up, and we will be joined by as many of our podcast crew as is able to join us. Jeremy, Aaron, Jacqueline, maybe even Hunter. But there's something special we want to tell you that Hunter has given me permission to share. Hunter is now watching after baby Elle. Born recently, baby Elle weighed about the weight of a baby and about the height and length, or whichever direction you want to measure, of a baby. And so those are all the numbers and statistics I know. But congratulations, Hunter and her husband, for bringing baby Elle into the world.
Oh, there's another thing you're supposed to say. Mother and baby are doing well.
Yes, yes.
Everybody always says it that way, in those exact words.
Exactly. Something that from a kid, I never understood. Why do they say mother and baby? Why can't they just say the names of the people? But anyway, that's a side note. So we'll hear from as many people as possible in our podcast team, but we'd also love to hear from you. So send us your thoughts and theories on this episode. And frequently, we don't really feature what our audience says they like and dislike, because we like to focus on the in-depth theories and discussions and Easter eggs and that kind of stuff. And please still send us that, but feel free to also send us what you thought the highlights of this episode were and where you think the show is going after this lead in to season 6. All of our contact information is in the show notes for this episode at oncepodcast.com/251. When we do our upcoming full discussion, we'll also dig deeper into a lot of the other things. We'll look at some of the stuff for Easter eggs, screenshots. We'll talk about a lot of other stuff. And we'd love to have you part of that. So you can watch our show live over at oncepodcast.com/live on Wednesday. I should always look at the date first. So you can watch our podcast live on Wednesday, May 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's GMT minus 4. Over at oncepodcast.com/live. You know what? Let me do that again.
What happened to our video?
Our video should be fine.
Nope.
It says it's live. They're
all seeing the logo.
Do you hear us? Oh, the camera froze. That's weird.
That hasn't happened in a long time.
Do you guys hear us? I mean, like on the video. They must have heard us because I saw www.http:// Oh, stink. And now that's why the video froze.
See us. I think that's how the commercial goes.
I don't know. Did you guys hear me clap? I can't see the chat room now. I can't read it.
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay.
We are here.
Whoa. Now the
are
chat
here.
room is. Whoa. Okay.
We are here.
We do hear. I can't. Okay.
We are here.
Let me try turning the camera off. And
Blind
back on
witches.
again. Something's wrong with the camera.
But we're wrapping up, yeah?
Yeah. So let's just go to wrap up. Sorry, I apparently can't get the camera to work.
You'll have to not see us again until Wednesday.
Yeah. Every time I try and turn on the camera, the browser locks up. That's really weird. I didn't bump it.
Doesn't have anything to do with the one you knocked over.
Everybody grab some coins and throw it into the fountain because we together can believe this into working again.
Do it.
All right.
And if you don't have a fountain, fill your sink with water. And if you don't have a plug for the drain, just throw it in a dirty dish.
Okay. Let's get back to this and wrap this up. So let me put it this way. This replaces the live thing. Yes, Jeremy? Are you
Ash, my goodness.
Okay. There we go. I better grab my closing line. Where'd it go?
Where'd it go?
Oh, yeah. That's what I wanted. Closing. Okay. Please join us when we record the podcast live. Let me say that differently. Please join us when we record the podcast live. For our schedule, go to oncepodcast.com/live, and that is linked also in the show notes for this episode. Connect with us on Twitter at oncepodcast.com. No. I mean, yes, do connect with us, but that's not the right URL. Sorry, too many things broke. Please connect with us on Twitter for our late-breaking announcements. Late-breaking? Sorry, I'm suddenly thinking way too much about everything I say.
You don't have to clap. We're not syncing audio.
Please connect with us on Twitter at oncepodcast, and I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at the Ramen Noodle.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
Please go to the show notes and share this episode out with everyone you know. That's at oncepodcast.com/251, and send us your feedback for our upcoming full discussion. And until next time, will you make a wish for us? And thanks for listening. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to our heroes for making this episode of the podcast possible. If you would like to be one of them, then please go to oncepodcast.com/hero. You get access to cool things like bloopers, and boy, we have some ones from this episode, and early access to spoilers and other cool stuff. That's all for our heroes only at oncepodcast.com/hero. And thank you for your support. All right, we are finished recording, but we are still live.
After all that trouble you had, it was 50-50 as to whether I was going to remember my own name or not. I was trying not to laugh, And I was like, what do I say? What do I say? I really was thinking Daniel Lewis.
Oh no! What do I do? What do I do? You can't see it, but I'm doing the
Pull
Batman.
yourself
Hey, there we
together.
go. There's one camera working.
We go on this journey.
Here's what I could do. I could just I talk, and then Jeremy, you talk.
This journey.
There we go.
Hi.
There, it's old style camera switching, and then
That's
I
old
talk,
style camera switching.
and then you talk,
Hi.
and then I talk, and then you talk,
Hi.
and then someone vomits because of all the camera motion.
It was me.
Whoa.
I vomited. Whoa.
That's okay. I've got you.
What?
Now let me see if I can switch back to the wide camera.
Who's that in the chair? Whoa, you don't miss nothing. Ah, there's somebody in the chair.
Yeah, I can't get that other camera to work. I think I need to
There's
unplug
somebody
it and
behind
replug
me?
it.
Guys, Daniel, turn the camera around slowly. Who's behind me? Turn off the light. To continue the
He's right
Batman
behind you,
Spider-Man
isn't
thing.
he?
Don't turn it on again.
Who's behind Jeremy? We have always wondered
Mm-hmm.
who is behind that mask. Okay.
That's guest 337.
Is it guest 337?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't see him in the chat room.
I
Okay.
didn't notice
Let
till
me do this.
we were done.
We are still live.
Live. Snap, crackle, and pop. Ooh.
That's what I was hearing in my ears, actually.
I know. I think that's probably what triggered my thought of singing such a thing. It was just
Okay.
popping just a little bit.
Let me see if I can switch to the wide view again. Yay, there we go. Hey, everybody. This is the signal. Well, no, that's not the signal, but.
That is.
So, yeah, we had a guest, a friend with us today.
A guest a friend.
We didn't do
Whoa,
a
that
big
looks
finale
amazing.
party, but we did do a little casual finale party with me and Jeremy and a friend, and we went to a local restaurant and ate food. I feel like I ate too much food. And then we came back with more food.
Really junky desserts, and it was glorious.
Yeah.
And I ate it even though I felt too full.
Me too.
It's just, it was finale special stuff.
You know what I wish I could do sometimes?
Take out the contents of your stomach that you already consumed and make room for more.
Yes, but like rip out the dark food, the darkness I just ate, the calories I just ate,
Yeah.
and then confront them, crush their heart, and then never struggle with them again.
I think that's called dieting, and it just comes back to haunt you later.
Okay, now I am discovering my microphone is probably too loud. Or is Jimmy? Yeah. Pull out the dark stomach. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Hey, to our heroes, I am going to be sending these cards again, or maybe not me, but because if you haven't learned before, I am horrible with mailing stuff. Like when it comes to paper, anything that involves paper, I am horrible with it. And so my executive assistant and my wife, I mean, not like two people, they're one person, not like one of them ripped their heart out, crushed
Whoa.
it, but anyway, my wife is my executive assistant. So she is also the manager of Heroes on Patreon. She will be sending these cards out very soon. I have one wife. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Please send us your feedback. Join us again on Wednesday. And
Join us back, as we used to say on the ramen noodle a lot.
yeah. Extra, I've noticed a friend of mine said, "Thank you for joining me back."
What?
There was something like motivational I wanted to say, but
Oh.
can't remember.
Go out there and do the stuff.
Anyway, we'll be back. Don't do drugs. Okay, that's the motivational statement.
Yeah. If you're looking for narcotics, we're just simple herbalists.
Yes, so look somewhere else. Thanks for joining us. See you in the full discussion on Wednesday.